Hello gainers, Ralphie here with some fitter philosophy, sharing the fitter side of philosophical stoicism and other sort of contemporary thoughts and perspectives to help with our overall holistic fitness. See, it's not just happening in the gym or going for walks or getting a regular medical health check. Fitness needs to be comprehensive, and the fitter we are in our heads and the more practical it is, influenced by real life situations rather than elusive theologies, the better. And I want to talk to you in this vlog about boredom and just how dangerous boredom can be. Now, we'll start as kids, teenagers, hormonal changes, kids get bored, classically. And it's perfectly natural. It's transient. It doesn't remain for too long. There'll be mumbles and grumbles and moans from the kids saying, I'm bored, I'm fed up. And it's perfectly natural, so long as it doesn't hang around for too long. For the simple reason, if boredom stays too long, if it embeds ourselves in our lives, we risk becoming boring people and having less eventful, less experienced lives. In other words, we don't get everything out of life that we can because we're hobbled, handicapped, ball and chained by the experience, the constant companionship of boredom. So it's nothing innocent, nothing inoffensive, and it's not a thing that we should be never worried about because it happens to be fairly innocuous. Boredom can be very dangerous indeed, and is a symptom over time that our lives are simply not what they should be due to varying circumstances that we experience as individuals. But as children and adolescents, they need to experience boredom because as the hormonal changes take place, as they transition from children to adults, there's this whole range of emotions that young people experience, and they're important because basically it's the psyche recalibrating itself, and the youngsters have to experience these emotions and feelings and all the rest of it purely as a future point of reference for the memory. It's as simple as that. So that in growing up, boredom is fleeting and passing. It's quite an important experience because it lets the mind recognise it. And once recognised and experienced, it's not going to be forgotten. It's going to be quickly recognised in the future. And there's a great little poem about boredom. And I remember we used to have it at school. And it was basically, if you're as boring as can be, do not pass it on to me. Your boredom is no use to me, so keep it all to yourself. I know, it doesn't really rhyme, but it was never supposed to be. It was one of these little ditties that kids kind of fly at each other in the playground. And you'll notice, by the way, it's getting a little bit noisy. We're down at the river, the Sulby River, at a place called Gary Ford. I thought this would be suitable because, one, it's not raining here, and secondly, it's really nice. It's an attractive, beautiful spot of the island. We'll stop in the bridge and I'll tell you a wee bit more about boredom. Now that I've got a very attractive backdrop here. Here we are. If our lives are not lived fully and eventfully, we will have symptoms, and boredom is a symptom, which will manifest itself in quiet frustration, exasperation, a feeling of claustrophobia, a feeling of negativity, nothing drastic, nothing severe. It's all quite ambient and ethereal. And that's part of the danger, is that because of circumstances, whether it be the relationships we have, the people that we call friends, that where friendships don't really develop, the jobs that we can be in, particularly many modern jobs in the modern world, which are very monotonous, repetitive, and frankly unimportant, and we don't get a feeling of contributing to wider society through the jobs we do. These can manifest themselves as prolonged, sustained boredom, which, like a little acorn seed, it kind of grows, and nothing seems to happen in the short term, but over the long term it actually starts to profoundly affect our life. And worst of all, we actually, without realising it, start to become more boring people. That's the problem with boredom. Fair enough, kids need to experience it, but as mature adults, if we're experiencing the symptoms of boredom, and as I say, these symptoms can manifest in many different ways, a kind of subtle frustration, increasingly bad-tempered, increasingly opinionated and intolerant, more prone to lash out at friends and family and relatives, people that we should value in our lives, that are important in our lives as quality points of reference, and yet we, because of the boredom situation, morphing and growing more impactful, we tend to start to let the value of these relationships go. We're more distracted by things and the value of things rather than the value of people. That's another really good way. Here we are, we're down at the river now, Sulby River. This little wall here, by the way, see that little wall there? They had to put that in because of the number of drivers that were coming along the road, and instead of looking where they were going, they were driving right into the riverbed itself rather than over the ford. Now, fair dues, fair enough. When the water's higher and the lighting isn't so good, you could make that mistake, but it's just unfortunate on the island. There's a lot of old drivers that are frankly past it. Now, when I say old, there's plenty of old drivers that are not past it, but there are people who continue to drive when their reflex actions and their abilities to actually navigate a vehicle responsibility have long since gone. It's real life. Anyway, I'm going to conclude now by advising you to be on your guard against boredom. How can you tackle it? Well, one, don't institutionalize your life. Don't get too repetitive. It's always good to do something fresh, so you don't have to do anything big and drastic. You know, if you're in a relationship with someone, do something together and make the time to do it. Put the phones aside, stop the texts and start the talking. When you go out, don't go to the usual place and meet the usual people and do the usual things, which are part of the institutionalization of routine. Do something that you would never normally do. That, for example, go to a museum, go to an art gallery. I'd suggest one of the older art galleries rather than new ones, because they tend to be a bit pretentious. It's up to yourself. And start to list things. If you've got boredom issues, list what the problem is. See, as soon as you take it out of your head and put it onto paper, black and white in ink, there it is. Pin it in the fridge, put it up on your wall, stick it in the bathroom mirror, put it in your bedroom, beside the bedside table, where you can see it and cannot miss it. The beginning of solutions to problems happens when you recognise them and identify these problems. And it's just to remind you that it's not the chronic things in life that can bring us down, and like ill health, having a car crash, having a sudden bereavement. That's bad enough, but it's little things, and boredom is a very good example that when we allow too much boredom too regularly, we become boring. When we do, we become less than what we can be, and as a result of which our experience of life is diminished. Might not be by a lot, but it can be just enough to have an effect, an impact, and we all need to be aware of that. I'm Ralphie, on location, down at the river. I hope you've enjoyed this. Join me again for some Fitter Philosophy, where I will be discussing another subject, and which I hope that you will find interesting. If you've enjoyed this, of course, please subscribe, click like, leave a comment, and it's lovely to have you check out my videos. Thank you very much.